call this meeting to order.
Alderman McHenry.
Here.
Alderman Williams.
Here.
Alderman Dennis.
Here.
Alderman Steverson.
Here.
Alderman Floyd.
Here.
Alderman Thompson. Alderman Gill.
Present.
Alderman Donnie Mack, will you lead us in prayer this evening?
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this beautiful day you've given us here today, dear Lord. We thank you for the opportunity to come meet here tonight to hold the business of the city, Lord. I ask that you be with everybody here tonight, be with the aldermen as they make decisions that will affect the city, dear Lord. Thank you for the many blessings that you give us. Give us as many times as better. In your name we pray. Amen.
Alderman Steverson, will you lead us in the pledge this evening?
Attention, salute, pledge.
At this time, we have some acknowledgments. We want to make sure that we discuss for the board meeting, for the viewing crowd, also at home. I'm gonna wait on our IT guy here to get. Do what? Okay. This month's police officer of the month is Brandon Jordan. He's our K-9 investigator that's assigned to narcotics. Brandon has been with us since he was 15. Started in the summertime running a weed eater. And then after he graduated high school, he actually went full-time with the city with the Public Works Department running a weed eater. And after being in that department for several years, he transferred over to our communications department at the police department. Then he became a police officer by going through the Malota, and then worked himself up to investigator. So that was 2009. He's spent his life at the city of Pearl since he got out of high school. Actually started before, as I said. That is Enzo Sky. It's a new narcotics dog that we received. We received a $10,000 donation for that dog, as well as a $7,500 grant. Just recently, this dog has been trained. It's actually can be a drug detecting dog as well as apprehending people as well. So anyway, he does a great job. They've already had some great stops on the interstate, and Brandon does a superior job for the Pearl Police Department, for the city of Pearl. The second person that we would like to acknowledge tonight as Employee of the Month, Director of Auto Maintenance, is Billy Jordan. It just so happens Billy Jordan is Brandon Jordan's father. So Billy started with the city of Pearl in 1989. He's been here for a very, very long time. Billy is one of those guys that if you give him a task, he's going to be on it and have it back to you very soon. He is a very good employee with a very good attitude, and he does multiple tasks for us throughout the city. One thing that I asked him to do was surplus property that was not of any value for the city, starting back in 2017, and he would report. It's been a little bit of time since he reported back, but just items that are not usable and are broken down, or we do have surplus vehicles that come into being at times. We've made over $500,000 just in items that don't even work anymore, and he's in charge of that. And I think that's good government. I think that's a good thing for us to be able to purge those items within the city and get it off of our inventory. But he does a superior job, and I just want to add to this. Billy has a sister that works at the Pearl Police Department that's over our communications department, and their daddy is a retired police officer that works here as a reserve officer. So the Jordan family is fully vested in the city of Pearl, and we appreciate them so much. We'll move on at this time into the consent agenda.
Approval of consent agenda items. All items under this heading will be considered to be approved with one motion and one vote. If further discussion is desired on any item, it will automatically be removed from the consent agenda and be considered as a general business item.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to public hearings.
Number one, consider a request by E. Lillian Jones to rezone the property on Highway 468, also known as Section 28, Township 5 North, Range 2 East, Tract 1, Tract 2, and Tract 3, from A1 Agricultural District to C3 Highway Commercial.
Brad, will you tell us a little bit about this, please, sir?
This property is located right there at J.L. Jones Drive. Like I say, they requesting to rezone, the adjacent properties next to it, and the fronting properties on 468 are, the zone currently agriculture, which is they don't have a need for an it's a higher, better use for the property. So I would recommend the rezone.
And then in that particular area right now, we have other areas that's zone C3 already, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
No, we have. It's consistent throughout that
Yeah.
468 corridor. And really and truly for everyone in the room, after the Pearl Richland Intermodal gets built, it's under construction now, then we foresee some commercial sprawl to go down 468 on some of those empty parcels.
And the adjacent property next to it is
So it's not gonna
currently
affect,
zoned.
not gonna affect the Jill Jones house, just the property out front.
Right.
That's right. That's right. All right, thank you, Brad. Is anyone here to speak in opposition to this? If not, what's the pleasure of the board at this time?
Second.
All right, it's two motions. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on.
Number two, consider a request by Mississippi Developers LLC to rezone portions of parcels G09, G17, G09, G1710, G09H23, G09H2310, G09H30, and G09K-2 from residential estates to single-family residential.
At this time, I'm going to ask Nick Gillette with Mississippi Home Developers to come up. He has a presentation that he would like to present to the rest of the room. Some people in the room has already seen this, but I would like for him to do it again.
All right.
All right, Nick, if you can just step us through this presentation, please, for everybody here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this minimized. All right, there we go. All right, first off, thank everybody for having me. I see this obviously piqued a lot of interest with everybody, residents as well. So really want to just take this opportunity to let everybody know what we're looking at doing, the investment in Pearl, and the benefits that this will have on the city. So just going to kind of start, obviously it's on the East Metro Parkway. This is kind of an overview of the property, and we're talking about the yellow property is the residential side. So our team, myself, my name's Nick Gillette. Carl Sandberg is my partner in this development in the company with me. So I'm a graduate from Pearl High School. Grew up in Pearl pretty much my entire life. My family, and I'll show you kind of at the end, lives out here off of Cooper Road in Pearl, pretty much my whole extended family. So residents actually own personal property that will eventually build on in this area as well. Carl is actually the current president of the State of Mississippi Home Builders Association, owns 3S Homes, has built a lot of homes in Pearl, and I'm the owner of MS Homes. I've also built a good number of homes in Pearl. I believe we've built somewhere in 35 to 40 homes in Pearl at this point already. So a little bit about us. We are members of the Home Builder Association of Mississippi, national and state, Pearl Chamber of Commerce. We're both certified professional builders, Flowwood Chamber of Commerce, just to name a few of the organizations we support. So this is the overall revised plat. When we originally presented this plat, we had some lots a good number of lots that were between 66 and 75 feet wide. We have since revised this based on the recommendation of the board as well as Brad and a lot of the feedback that we've gotten. And you can see the difference in the lot counts there. But this shows in the very southeast section is called the Hollows. Then southwest is Shadow Ridge, and Caney Creek is the north section. But that's the overall layout of the just over 70 acres of property there. This is just kind of an individual, shows the topographic lines a little bit zoomed in on each of those parcels. This, I wanted to make people aware, we discussed this last week, but we do have two a little over 3 acre lots that will back up to the lake on the property that are for sale now, if anybody's interested, right there on Old Brandon, and a couple of 3 acre lots. So to put that out there for folks. So a lot of discussion has happened about lot size. Everybody said that they don't want a Barnett Bend or a Serenity Lake, 2.0 kind of deal. So I put this together to really help the aldermen and everyone, as well as all of the residents out here, understand kind of and put comparison to it. So the hollow section, we have 5 lots that are close to a half acre or over a half acre, from 15,500 to 24,670 feet. And the average lot size is 13,796. Shadow Ridge, there's 13 of those larger lots. Average lot size is 13,779. Caney Creek is 21 lots in that size with an average size of 13,802 feet. So 39 lots at that 15,500 up to about almost 25,000 square feet. And then we have actually the 2 3-acre lots. That's changed from 3 2-acre lots. So some comparable subdivisions, just to kind of put that in perspective. The Serenity Lake development, that's 55-foot lots, and those lot square footage are 5,700 to 9,000. So we're anywhere from well over double to triple and quadruple the lot size of that subdivision. Tower Ridge, directly across the street from this property on Old Brandon, 65-foot lots between 8,600 and 13,000 square feet. Biltmore Cove and Flowwood, which is development that we've done in Flowwood, those lots are 70 to 80 foot wide lots. Latter Rain, one of Flowwood's more popular neighborhoods, and a lot considered kind of a higher end subdivision, is 80-foot lots. Garden of Manship has 55-foot lots. Most people are pretty familiar with it, a nice neighborhood in Flowwood. Asbury Lane in Pearl has 55 to 80-foot lots, with the exception of there's one street that's estate-size lots. And then another thing, just to put in perspective, I know for myself, being from Pearl and a lot of the residents, is Country Place. When I was growing up, Country Place is where the wealthier people in Pearl lived. And so to put it in perspective, everybody says, well, we would love another Country Place. Well, 50% of Country Place in Pearl has 80-foot lots, with the smallest square footage of lot size from 7,500 to 29,900. There's a couple, I think there's 1 or 2 right at 1 acre. But the average for the entire Country Place subdivision is 10,000 square foot lots. So we're 3,000 square foot plus on average larger than the average of Country Place, which is what I've heard a lot, is that's kind of the gold standard for Pearl, and I've been asked, well, how come you can't do, bigger lot sizes? It's putting in perspective, these are not share sugar with your neighbor lots. So these aren't 0 lot lines with, you can't fit a lawnmower between the houses. On average, the houses will have at least 30 feet between each home. So the homes are spaced out nicely. You'll actually have yards. People will be able to play in their front yard. So they're not 0 lot lines, is essentially what we're trying to show here to everybody concerned about that. So the what's in it for Pearl is very important. $790,000 in property taxes annually estimated. Of that, over $300,000 will go directly to Pearl schools, and hopefully that's what's top of mind for everyone is the school district in Pearl. $165,000 will go directly to the city, and it's an estimated $60 million worth of new property tax base. And a note, right now the property brings in a tax revenue of under $300 a year. So I don't know how many 1,000% increase that is, but pretty large there. So again, the $60 million worth of homes. Homes are starting at, actually with the little bit bigger lot size, a little over $300,000 and going well above $400,000. So to kind of put that in perspective in just a second, but the full economic impact is estimated over $47 million. And this comes from actually a cumulative of multiple different studies that show the impact of each new residential home on an area. So at 150 plus homes, it's estimated about 47 million, created, from spending from new residents, from the exact, or from the tax revenues created, the full trickle-down effect of the subdivision. So also on, quality in commercial businesses, commercial and growth in a city is of utmost importance for a city to continue to be successful and to thrive. And without new rooftops and plus the tax revenue this will bring, it's hard to get large investments into the city of Pearl. So this is going to, have a immediate impact, but also have a much wider trickle-down effect, because as businesses look to invest or move to a city, they look at growth, they look at rooftop growth, and that's what this brings in a quality fashion. So one other thing, because I've heard a lot of, well, who are the new neighbors going to be? Who is going to be sending their kids to Pearl Public School District? Who is going to be moving in these houses? So the average household income to purchase these homes is over $100,000, with approximate payment of $2,200 a month at a starting price. And one thing that I'd like to just bring to everybody's attention, when you say lot minimum or house minimum, it's the minimum. It's not every single house. So these houses are going to be well above the minimum. On average, we're typically 200 to 300 square feet above the minimum of a neighborhood on an average basis, and some going much larger than that. So that just kind of puts in perspective the household income for these buyers. And this it comes directly from a financial calculator. So a $318,000 mortgage, if somebody has one car payment, takes $100,000 to qualify for. So that'll be essentially the minimum starting price in the subdivision. To put it in perspective, the average household income in Pearl is currently $54,615, and the average home price in Pearl is $141,000. This is directly from the census information. Also, owner-occupied housing rate in Pearl is 60%, and again, like I said, the median home value is $141,000 of owner-occupied homes. And this is just the more information from median household income. One thing that I think is very important, if you look at the highlighted education section, is of high school graduates, the percentage of people at 25 years or older still in the city is 88%. But when you go to bachelor college educated individuals, that drops to 23%. So we're really missing the boat as a city, capturing folks that go off to college and come back to Pearl. It's over 75% of those people never happen because they don't have a nice, newer home to buy in the city. This is just a couple of different articles as of late talking about job creations that new housing brings. So it's 3 different articles published by different magazines from different dates. And essentially what it sums to is every new construction home built in a city brings an estimated full-time jobs of 2.9 jobs per house. So, I mean, you can do the math pretty easily on 150 homes, how many jobs it's bringing. And on the job front, it's not just the jobs while you're building the homes. It is the people that support it, realtors that make their living off of selling and reselling homes. That's very important and dire to those families. People that are going to deliver you Grubhub, people that are going to work on your air conditioning, cut your grass. It's the jobs that it can create and the income it can create is astronomical for the city. So this is something I put in here. This is directly from Pearl's website about the strategic initiative, strategic plan that this board of directors or this board put in place. And essentially, why is a strategic plan needed for a city? It's for population growth, new development, new roads. And the current plan was dated, I believe this was in 2017 is when this was done. So essentially, a comprehensive plan is a guide for public policy decisions for land use, development, transportation improvements. Typically, it covers a 20 to 25 year period. So the elements of this Mississippi Code requires the goal and objections of this section to plan and address residential, commercial, industrial development, as well as parks, public works, the public schools. All of that information is why the city has this plan in place. And from the survey done during putting this plan in place, the large majority, or one of the largest peaks of interest, is the plan should encourage new residential developments, and that is from the overall population being surveyed of the city of Pearl. Not just a select few, but kind of overall respondents. So this really is also part of this plan. This is, again, directly from Pearl, but this is the housing units that are needed in Pearl. As you can see, in 2020, 10,524 houses were estimated to be needed. By 2040, that will need to be 12,259. Without new developments being approved and coming to the city, we're going to fall well short, and those people are going to go to surrounding cities and with a negative impact for Pearl. This is something that 85% of all, the second paragraph there, of all housing units in the city were constructed between 1960 and 2009. So the pace of construction has drastically slowed since 2009, and vacancy rate is extremely low, almost at zero. Really shows the need for additional single-family residential construction within the city. This really shows that the building permits since 2016 to 2019, there were 125 new single-family building permits issued. The average value of those new construction homes, $193,000. So we're going well above $100,000 above that for a minimum. And we're talking about bringing more homes to Pearl than in that time span. Also, this, as far as tax revenue, if revenue is generated from property taxes, and local sales taxes within the government increase, then the millage rate can be lowered, and lower tax rates is what everybody wants, but they also want everything nice. So this is what this helps potentially do for the city as well. And like I said, one of the goals is to encourage development of one of the main goals of low and medium density single-family housing. That was one of the main goals set out from the city of Pearl in this strategic initiative. Between the three subdivisions, that Carl and I are involved in, we're talking about an investment in boosting Pearl by $100 million worth of homes in the near future. And this is, we've had a lot of feedback of, well, it needs to, it's estates, nothing's changed with this property, it needs to stay estates. Well, when a parkway comes through that's going to bring a very high traffic count, that automatically kind of changes the character of property. But this just kind of shows how difficult, or what the market is in Pearl for homes on estate homes at 500,000 plus. 2022, there were 0 homes sold over 500,000. 2021, there were 0 homes sold over 500,000 within MLS. There may have been some private sales, and in those 2 years, there were 5 homes sold for 400 to 500,000. This also shows. This is something that I've heard a few people say, well, we don't want it to hurt our values. Well, I promise you I don't either. My family lives out here. I will build out here eventually. And this is some data directly from MLS showing that we're actually, with the current homes we're already building and selling, we are raising the average price per foot for the entire city already. So if you see the homes closed in MLS, if you go to the median price per square foot was $143. New listings, and this is with Serenity Lake alone coming on board, the median price is now $172 a foot. So in this direct area, we've actually closed homes now over $173 a foot. So the myth that we're hurting home values is absolutely false. And one thing just to make people aware that are not aware, when an appraiser comps your home and your home's 3,000 square feet, they don't comp to an 1,800 square foot home. They comp to a similar size home as well. But we are overall raising the value. So one of the reasons, going back to the state lots, and we've talked about this is the 4th time for me to really run through this, but topography on this is very difficult. Whether you do 1 acre lots or smaller lots, you have to shape the land, which is very expensive, moving a lot of dirt. The premium cost of property with the infrastructure cost for states would have lots at $150,000 plus, which is unaffordable for the majority of people. Homes on state lots would have to be $600,000 or more, which is a $4,000 a month note. So you need 200 grand to qualify. There's probably not many of us in this room that or any possibly that make over 200 grand. Not getting anybody's personal finances, but that just eliminates a lot of potential people from being able to buy in here. And again, in the city, there's been 0 homes sold for over 500,000. Right now, there's currently 13 homes for sale in Pearl over 450, and they're not selling right now. The average days on market's over 200. And as a builder, we would not buy estate lots if we developed them, so how can we develop something that we would not buy? We're trying to maximize the highest and best use of this property, which is what every government, public sector, school tries to do, with their property, including 16th section land as well. So this is something that we've had some questions about. Well, we don't want small lots because people are going to park their broke down cars and boats in the front yard. We want them in the backyard. Well, they're not going to be in the backyard either in this subdivision. It's going to be extremely covenant protected, and we're going to have professional management company manage the HOA of the subdivision. That will not be paid for by taxpayers. It will be paid for by the buyers of the homes in the neighborhood. So there will be covenants. There'll be essentially the subdivision will police itself. So it's not going to be a larger burden on the city with code enforcements as well. So a couple different entrance ideas, just kind of giving people some visuals of what we're going to spend some substantial money. We have a very large amount budgeted for entrances, trying to make it look very nice. A couple of 1,800 square foot homes ideas that we have, just kind of showing you what 1,800 square foot might look like. And again, you can see there's some houses really close on the edge of these pictures. That will not be the case here. It's really hard to drive around and find a new subdivision that has 80-foot lots because the cost of developing in 2022, 2023, so they will be much more spaced out than these homes. And a couple of 2,000 square foot home ideas that we built. Again, you can see homes, 15, 20 feet in some of the nicest neighborhoods in Rankin County. That will not be the case here. These lots are much bigger. This is something that I've had somebody bring up in one of these meetings. Well, you have no idea what you're talking about for this area and the impact it's going to have on people. You're not a Pearl guy. Well, I am a Pearl guy. The bottom section is this proposed subdivision. The top section is my personal property, my sister's home I'm building now, my cousin, my uncle, my dad. We all live in this vicinity. So there's no way I'm going to do anything to negatively impact myself or my immediate family, much less the rest of the citizens in Pearl. So hopefully y'all can kind of understand what we're doing now, and any of the misconceptions you've heard hopefully have been debunked at this point. But I hope we've answered those questions. Hopefully I've addressed the fact that the lots are large. We have some acreage lots that if anybody wants to buy right now as well. I think I've shown some examples of how nice these homes will be with some of the visuals that we've given to you here. And these are not share sugar through the window, homes. So these are spread out and spaced in a nice subdivision. Also, that we're not going to hurt the surrounding values of homes. I think hopefully I've demonstrated that. The minimum qualifying income for this is going to be people moving into the city that are boosting our school district and also boosting our entire city, which hopefully at heart everybody is what's best for the city, and at the heart of that, the school district as well. So I pray that, everybody can really understand the true economic impact and what this will do for Pearl, what it means for Pearl. And by the way, it's the largest residential, actually the second largest investment I know of in the city of Pearl's history. So hopefully, having, less than 1% of people that might still be against this development, that's always going to be there. But hopefully the incredible impacts this is going to have on the city don't deter you and the mass majority of residents, from really seeking the opportunity that this is going to bring, to bring more homes to Pearl. And one thing to think about for residents here that are for or against this is this is not just to bring new people to Pearl either, but these homes will be dream homes for many of the residents of this city. So this is an opportunity for people to truly move up within their own city instead of move out. So that, we're trying to give people an opportunity to have a nice new home and not exclude the current people that live in this city from being able to buy in the new neighborhood in their city as well as obviously bring new people in. So, you know, I hope as a product of Pearl, you know, you can see and trust that we're truly trying to have the highest and best use of this property, you know, and really bring property values up, and this is an incredible investment into Pearl's future. You know, this project will be amazing, and it'll be something that Pearl can truly be proud of, with extremely nice entrances on our parkway, with nice homes, and hopefully that you guys will vote yes for rezoning this property, and approving this plat moving forward. So, thank y'all. Any questions?
Yeah, I got it.
All right?
Go ahead, Gavin.
Well, the one question I had was about buffer.
Yeah.
And I think that the very first thing that we had, my concern was about, other people's properties that are already there.
Correct.
What the buffer is also going to be surrounding the properties. Now, looking at the plat, from what Mr. Johnson said, it's 10-foot buffer on some of those, and I don't know if that's what's required. I don't know if 10 foot's gonna work. I don't know what maybe it's gonna go on top of somebody's back. You know, so is it a 10-foot buffer, is it a 50-foot buffer?
Yeah, so what's drawn on here is 10-foot tree buffer that trees are not touched.
On your property or their property?
No, it's on our property.
On your property.
Yeah, no, so if they have trees on their property as well. Yeah, 10 foot of trees not touched. But with rear setbacks, there will not be a house within 50 to 60 foot with the tree buffer of the back of the property. So we're not putting houses right on the back of properties.
Brad, our ordinance is 50 feet, correct? Yeah, I'm not talking about from where we're talking about, the distance there.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I can tell you, Gavin, the reason that we put, you know, with your concern on what happened over in Scalaway Hills with all the trees, we wanted to make everybody comfortable that we're not just going to say we're going to do something, we actually physically are putting it in the plat. You know, that'll be an officially recorded plat, so we're not.
Is it a 50-foot buffer from the back side of the house, to the property line of the building, or is it a 50-foot buffer from, I don't know how, what exactly it's worth. So I know we got from property line to the back of the house that you're building, you're saying it's 50 feet.
Yeah, at a minimum.
Is that what the ordinance says, as far as the buffer? 30 feet, yeah. 30 feet, rear property.
30 feet.
So from the back of the building, to the back of the house.
Back of the property line, from the back property line to the back corner of the house can be 30 feet. Is what the city ordinance is. That was commercial.
Gavin, in your buffer, you don't mind leaving trees.
If you can put trees in the buffer, and then another 40 to 50 feet.
Yeah, I think especially if commercial was 50, 30 on residential.
That's right. That's where I was confused.
Yeah. So again, the reason that we drew the tree buffer, so it's officially recorded on the plat, so we cannot cut every tree, you know, we have to leave that tree zone, so. And again, I mean, a lot of these, or majority of these properties also have trees on their property, so we're not putting a house right in their backyard, and it's not gonna be a clear-cut wasteland, it's gonna be a nice subdivision, you know, behind these people.
Nick, I was unable to be at the meeting last Wednesday work. I just got a few questions. Could you pull that up, back where you got the hollows like this right here?
Yes, sir. Nope. Yep.
Right up there, the hollows you were talking about there are 5 that are close to half-acre lots.
Yeah, that are,
You consider close to half an acre, 15,500 square foot.
yeah, I mean, I'd put in there anything from 15,000. That's why, instead of being gray, I put it black and white. I mean, 15,500 to 24,677, correct?
15.5, in my opinion, is closer to a 4-acre lot than 22, whatever it is that.
Well, it's above a third acre is what it is.
So when I look at that, I see there's 2 lots in there, in my opinion, that are 19,000 to the 22,000, close to half an acre. That's my opinion.
Okay.
But in that property, 14 of those lots don't even meet the, 11,500 minimum square footage required for R1, right?
Well, so I don't have that exact count, but if you
I got
count
it
it,
right here.
okay.
I can show it to you.
Well, I'd like to,
Yeah, so-
Steve, give me just 1
All
second
right.
here. When he came in here, so we discussed that on R1. But what we discussed and what we stressed was getting the 80 feet across the front. When he went back and readjusted the plat, he got the 80 feet across the front, which decreased some of the square footage size. But when he went to do this, he thought that he was doing what the pleasure of the board was at the time, to get that 80 feet, and which is R1 zoning. Doesn't have the square footage totally of the, but if you look at the entire plat itself, it has 7, and then some of them that are gonna be more common in your cul-de-sacs, they're gonna have less than the 80 feet. But I just wanna make sure that the board reiterated, that was the emphasis. Am I wrong, fellas, when we talked about that, the 80 feet? Because we talked about the fact of code enforcement, having things on the front yard, making sure that people could get to their backyard.
Yeah, so when we went in and redesigned, that was the hot topic. I mean, we can't keep changing the ball we're focusing on, but that was, what the focus was 80 feet. You know, trying to get the lots wider so we could, hey, these houses are too close together. So that's what we went in and tried to solve for everybody.
But 40% of those lots in the hollow don't meet the minimum requirement for R1.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we based everything on averages, so the average square foot is almost 14,000 square feet, so.
And just for the audience in here, 11,500 is R1 square footage in the city of Pearl. But again,
The minimum lot size would be in compliance with R1.
that's correct. But again, what I said a while ago is, my point is, you can't tell a man to go do something, redraw this up, and have 80 feet and meet the R1 requirements, and then come back and hit him up on square footage when he thinks he's complying to the concession
Yeah.
of the board in order to do this development. And
But if we're rezoning something that is the last property that we have of residential estates in Pearl, Mississippi, and we're gonna rezone it to R1, why would we not make it meet the minimum requirement?
the two things that this property can be zoned for, and that any developer will ever do anything with, is R1 and commercial. R1 is the better choice for our city. I mean, there's no way. We had Nick discuss, in which, because of the fact that Nick is the developer, people, well, he's bankrolled, he's making this money. And I'm gonna bring him up tonight because he's our resident in-house construction guy that knows about the value of land, and that's Shane Gurrell about excavation. To the point where we're showing folks that he's not getting over on these land costs. It's gonna take a lot of money to develop this property. And yeah, the concept of RE is great, but it's not feasible for the property because of the developmental costs outside of the land cost itself. So my point is, we come in here, we provide or ask for a concession, he provides a concession, and then we're getting into additional information that we want, or additional concessions that we want. And this is the 4th time that he's been in here. At some point, you know, I think the board's gotta be as good as it's requesting to the developer
I
itself.
mean, I think it's a big deal if the board approves this, that we move it from R1, RE to R1. I think that's a big concession.
Well, I'm gonna say this, there's, you were not here last week, but there are subdivisions and home builders that are sitting in here outside of the state lots, but if you talk about Madison, Brandon, Flowood, you got $450,000 houses on 8,500 square foot lots. So, in my mind, I'm thinking that we're getting the width, and the only residential estate left, there's other pockets of land throughout the city that I've identified that I've shared with the board that could easily be zoned RE. Now, does it mean that the cost there or the value of the land being developed, is it gonna be the same thing? Because you're gonna have these numbers. The reason this development is so hard, if you look at it, and I think that's what was said last time when we went through the work session for the people in the room, is the topography of the land itself. There's gonna be a lot of dirt that's gonna have to be moved, which is gonna drive cost. And that makes a big difference. Nobody has to stand up in here. How many people are home builders in here? Raise your hand. But I'm just, I see your point, and I get that, but the concept of it happening with this particular piece of property is very, very difficult. You can't have it, it's not feasible. Nobody's gonna go buy it and do it.
Well, isn't the normal operation to get property rezoned before you purchase it?
Yeah, and you know what, Johnny Mac, I'll tell you, just like I told the other crowd, that this was such a no-brainer to me for what our city needed for growth, that I didn't think that we'd be here tonight doing this, quite honestly. I mean,
How
I,
many votes do you have to rezone? How many
I
votes?
guess we'll see after the end of the
I'm
public
talking
hearing.
about, how many times do you get to vote on rezoning?
I don't get to vote on the rezoning,
Right, so.
but I got the pulse on the city better than you do.
Okay.
I mean, I do, because right now, we're talking about one area. We gotta be talking about the whole city. We can't just be talking about one particular thing. This is gonna be good for the entire city. And I live it out every day within the job, and then when I come in and present this to y'all, and I'm thinking this is a no-brainer, I'm sorry if I didn't mean to be disrespectful there. I apologize.
You've been disrespectful to everybody that's been against it, so, I mean, I don't know.
You
why
have
can't
too. And question some integrity as well. So, but we don't have to get into that in this board meeting. So, moving forward, I want to stay on track here about facts. And I'm going to ask Tim Pickett to come up. He talked about it, and I
Can I
mean,
finish asking my question?
yeah, you can.
Okay. On the Shadow Ridge, I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, okay? Saying 19,000 is close to a half acre. There's 4 of them there, okay? 12 that still don't meet the minimum requirements. That's 20% of that. Caney Creek, you said there was 21 close to half an acre. By my opinion, you got like 6 in that one. Now, probably in the whole thing, I think you got 4 that are really a half acre. Okay? Same thing in those, there's 19 lots that don't meet the minimum requirement. Okay,
Yeah.
so, by my math, and I'm, not the best at math, we got 46 that don't meet the requirement.
Yeah, overall with the updated plat, there's 36 lots as an overall. I didn't have it broken down by, from us going through it. And I might be over or under by that,
It's
so.
46, I got them right here if you want to look at it. On top. Okay? My point is, we're gonna give you 46 variances when we approve this plot, right?
I'm assuming that's how,
No, it'll be approved during the time of the plat. We're going to submit it to
That's
the
what I'm
board.
saying, whenever he submits the plat to the board, we're gonna have to give you 46 variances,
Yeah.
okay? Are you gonna ask for any more variances?
no,
You're not,
no, the plat is what we have drawn.
okay? So you're gonna put sidewalks in.
If that's a requirement to approve this, we'll put sidewalks in. Yeah, I mean, honestly, these are nice higher rent homes, so if we need sidewalks, we can do sidewalks. My understanding on not having sidewalks drawn was that, as a whole, the city didn't necessarily like sidewalks in a subdivision, so I was told by several different people that, so, yeah, if that's a deal breaker, yeah, we'll put some sidewalks in.
It's not feasible for state lots, but it is for R1 lots, or ordinance.
Do I know?
For state lots, you don't have to have sidewalks.
I understand.
It's not feasible. But for R1 development, to meet the ordinance, that's sidewalks.
Okay,
That's what I explained to you before the meeting.
yeah,
And this is not the approved plats.
Correct.
It's for rezoning.
But once you put it R1, then he can do the minimum. But he's not even doing the minimum, because 30% of the lots don't even meet the minimum.
If you approve R1, then you have to approve the plot.
I agree. But I mean, I would, think we're looking at the top before we just take all our RE out of the city and make it all R1, and we lose the fact that we're not gonna have any more RE. I'd like to know how the plat's going to work.
Nick, if this gets approved, is it gonna look like what you're building on there by that lake?
no, so that is,
That's a
again,
bad taste in my mouth. I'm
No,
sure
I-
there's a lot of people sitting in the room.
yeah. Again, and that, and I explained this in the last work session as well, is we did not develop those lots in Serenity Lake. We bought all of those lots in Serenity Lake, and we built on what, the lots that we bought. So, and that's why I've tried to bring as many visuals in as I can, you know, to show you the product that we're planning to put here. And those have, I believe, I think it's 5-foot setbacks, or they're 5 feet, so 10 feet in between each house. We're talking about 3 times that, you know, on average. We've got, I think we've closed either 3 or 4 now, and we have 10 sold, 10 to 11, somewhere in that range.
You had any conversations with anybody who lives on Alpine? That you thought it was gonna look a certain way? There was some changes made, it wasn't that way?
Do what now?
Have you had any conversations with anybody that lives on Alpine, which is the street that butts up the back of subdivision, that you told them was gonna be one thing and it'll be something else?
For this subdivision?
For
No.
the one street, like,
No, I have not.
Board have more questions?
I got one more. I don't know if we will be able to see this. Shadow Reeves, the plot there. 11 and 12. I don't know if they're
Hang
good
on.
ways here.
Trying to get it.
There's no possible way it would meet setbacks for the house. Lot 11 and 12, Shadow. It's in the top left corner up there. You see where the dark, yeah, those 2 lots right there.
These. Yeah, I mean, we would have to.
Could you not make those other lots in those corners bigger?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not feasible to put a house on, when we actually go to draw official plans, we would have to change them for feasibility. So the answer is yes. If we can't feasibly put a house within setbacks, we'd have to change that for sure.
Last question, I'm sorry. Cane Creek. I think there was a lot of concern from the alderman about having the larger lots, like along the parkway.
Hang on, clicker's going the wrong way. Shoot.
You see where the parkway is on the bottom left?
I do.
Like 5 of those lots for 10,000 square foot. I think that was one of the alderman's concern was gonna back up to the parkway. And that's like 5 of the smallest lots in the whole thing.
Yeah, well, again, when we made, took everybody's feedback, we went to the whole premise, the whole argument was, we gotta reduce lots with 80-foot lots. So that's exactly what we did. We did exactly what was asked of us on going to 80-foot lots. Now, again, there are 7 out of 150 or so that are at 75 feet, so a 5-foot difference there in the standard lots. So that is what we went to. So we're trying to meet what's asked of us, and then the ask, continues to change. So we've got to figure out where to nail this down, I guess is what I'm getting at.
And you know you're responsible for running the sewer up under the parkway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing, I know you weren't here last week, but one of the deals with the feasibility on 1-acre lots as well is health department is not going to allow a spray system on a 1-acre lot. So now we're talking about a $25,000 drip system that works 60% of the time if you have a family of 2. So as builders, I'm not an expert in septic, but we deal with it a lot. And having septic spraying out all over the place is, to me, is much less desirable, in a new development than having a fully developed, fully engineered. I mean, if you think about it, if you have 2 options. You have one that's fully developed, curb and gutter. We're talking about now, sidewalks, a full nice neighborhood with a nice entrance, or we're talking about a open ditch, above ground power, no entrance for the street sign. I think most people would prefer in their city a really nice, engineered, fully developed neighborhood, and that's what we're presenting here.
Nick, we discussed last work session about some of these larger lots, and from a bank standpoint, it's gonna be required that larger homes are gonna be built, because the bank's not gonna provide the money or loan the money to that particular home builder. Can you
Yeah, I mean,
elaborate on that a little bit?
yeah, so I mean, typically, the kind of standard is you want to keep your lot costs at 20% of the total price of the house. It's kind of the golden rule that we look at. So if I think we did the math last time, if you have a $150,000 lot, you got to at least build, I think it was $800,000 home. So the lot size and lot price dictates the amount the home has to be to justify the lot cost. So, and that's what I'm saying is we're talking about minimum square footages. There's never a subdivision in the history of the world that I know of that every house is at the minimum. So our average is going to be higher than that. Bigger lots, obviously going to have bigger homes, especially at the back of cul-de-sacs with the biggest lots. That's typically where the larger homes end up in a neighborhood.
So just as a ballpark here, I know they'll put me on the spot, so the 24,000 square foot lots that are within the subdivision, what do you picture being there as far as square footage?
Well, I mean,
If you look at it, what
yeah, I
you
mean,
were just
you're,
discussing that formula.
if my grandma wants to buy it and build a 2,000 square foot home, she could. But based on that formula, we're talking about a 2,500 square foot minimum house at at that point, based on the size lot, the price per square foot of the land, all of that.
You're talking about if somebody comes in with cash, they could build, but. if
That's
they go
right,
to the
yeah,
bank,
but
it's
very
gonna be a
few
different
people,
story.
correct.
There's probably, I know there's probably other people that want to speak. Board doesn't have any more comments. We can further this discussion.
And Tim, you want?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't zone out, I was listening.
I got a joke when I speak or I get nervous, so y'all bear with me. My name's Tim Pickett. I'm a senior vice president with Community Bank, NMLS number 1708354. Let me just say this, I'm not speaking on behalf of the bank, so I'll preface with that. Look, we've all heard the detailed plans, explanations from Nick. I applaud you for the work you put into it. I'm not from Pearl. I worked in Pearl. I'm around Pearl a lot. Got customers and good friends from Pearl. So personally, I support this. I support it because of the growth potential that it has. Obviously, our new headquarters is close by. We've got 2 other banks close by. So this is going to help those businesses that those, the roof to the citizens move in. Hey, Miss Cindy, good to see you. Sorry. And so I feel like this subdivision will lead to a strong economic development opportunities for Pearl, the surrounding areas, as well as opportunities for other businesses and banks, such as some represented here tonight. I have evaluated the subdivision from the feasibility and financeability standpoint. Y'all kind of hit on some of those facts that y'all were speaking of earlier about the financeability. Obviously, rates are a lot higher than they were. They're going to come down. We don't know when. Costs have gone up. They're extremely volatile. So the costs that we've seen that are going into this project, as well as with in combination with the rates, so on and so forth, it makes it really tough to finance somebody. And that's kind of what we fit on. And I won't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but the way Nick has this project structured, in my opinion, is the highest and best use of the property. And that's hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts. And a state subdivision for this site is just not, it's a disservice, in my opinion. I think that, economic growth is stemmed from residential growth. I mean, it's a fact you've got to have people to be able to grow. And that's exactly what this project would be doing for the city of Pearl and the surrounding areas as well, because of the hub and the position that's located. But that's all I have. I'll field any questions if there are any. Appreciate you guys having me out. Thank you.
Anybody that wants to approach the podium, feel free. This is a public hearing, so we're here to listen to people. Yes, sir.
First of all, I commend you on your presentation. I covered this last week. You bought this property, you didn't know it was on the spot. My opinion, you should have, I understand you're trying to make money. You got a lot of facts and figures up there. Most of them, you have to tell the facts and figures, they're not really accurate. Yes, correct?
Well, the facts are facts, but yeah.
There's no way to know about all the statutes on this, that, and the truth, there's those people that will be in those homes, more than likely, will spend their money flowing with the ground, because they're right there at it, they're not gonna be spending money for, other than maybe one.
When they take their kids to school, though, they're gonna be going into Pearl.
So, you build this, had to build these homes the way that you want. You bought the property, like the residential estates, compared to try to get this changed. So, what kind of estimate is there between the difference in the money we make? Did you figure that?
Well,
Or did you figure the amount of money that we made by the city of Pearl between the two different zones? RE, what they would make, or what they would make by changing it over to R1, whatever it is?
yeah, it's approximately about a 40% reduction, somewhere in there.
In other words, it's just a tax thing to them, and it's a money maker for you.
But, yeah, the original plat was definitely.
Everything like that today, it's gonna be an influx of traffic. The other thing is, the schools, how many children do you estimate or can you, that's going out there in the Pearl school system? And
Well,
the third, that's gonna put on.
Well, the school system, from my understanding, is searching for growth. And that is how a school system grows and thrives, is with growth and new residents. So, yeah, that's exactly what the school wants. Yeah.
How many people in here who have children in the Pearl School District or grandchildren? Well, you do. How many of you live out that way in the new annex area? How many of you know that you don't even have an opportunity unless something has changed to have representation on the Pearl School Board? Because when this annexation went through, all that was fixed into where you can't even run for the Pearl School Board. Why do I know that? Well, there's a lady that lives out there right across from where your parents live. And there's never such a school in the lake. Who hired from the Pearl School System. She went and tried to run for the Pearl School Board and was refused an application because she lives out there in the annexed area. Now, has that been fixed?
Mr. Barrett, that's one thing the superintendent, Chris Chisholm, and I have discussed. He just came into that position not too long ago. That's something that's on our radar to make sure that we get representation out there. I've already made calls to, he's aware of this, Freddie Harrell, and also to Grumpy Farmer, the president of the Rankin County School District Board. And from what I understand, we now receive so much money for each school, for each kid that's in that district from RCSD. So that transition has not come over that time. Rankin County School District's on board to making that transition. It's just working through some of the paperwork on it. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Chisholm, but there is some financial obligations there that I don't want to get ahead of the game and say this, but what I'm trying to tell everybody in the viewing audience is we're working on that to make sure that they get representation out there.
Why was it ever fixed like that to start with?
That was a part of the agreement during the process, when the annexation and then when Pearl School District actually was able to have our district go out in that area and those kids be bused to Pearl. That was part of the agreement between RCSD and the Pearl Separate School District during that time.
We've been annexed out there for 18 years now. This is in the annexed area, so now they're gonna be pulling school out of that area. But if that hasn't happened, for 18 years we've been paying taxes for people that want to, they deserve it. People that don't want it, I don't. They're living on it, that's my fault, annexation. I don't have anything against the person, not that. It's just that I just want to pay the taxes for all pay the taxes you claim already had
Jared, you're saying that you want sewer, but you don't want sewer. And I wanna elaborate on something too. I mean, you're talking about you don't want sewer, but when we're gonna put sewer, then you're gonna have to pay sewer.
As long as I got several people in my neighborhood that want it.
But I wanted to talk about this one thing that you touched on a while ago about this residential estates. Which one's gonna bring, if we talk about it from a revenue standpoint outside of just growth, my whole portion, or my whole position on this is from people being able to come out of, whether it be Pine Park, Patton Place, any of those neighborhoods, once their income levels grow, they have somewhere to land. We did not do a good job over the years of capturing people going to other cities. This neighborhood is gonna be able to provide us the ability to capture those young families and keep them here. This is not for me recruiting somebody. This is what I'm trying to do for the people within the city of Pearl. But when we're talking about this residential estates out here, R1 development's gonna generate more revenue because you're not gonna sell $850,000 houses on that lot. You're not gonna generate it because Avalon's not gonna be there.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did anybody consider that maybe thinking about it on this board, making some of these neighborhoods, there's three different neighborhoods, maybe R1, a little park, or residential estate? Has that been brought up?
It has been brought up. It has been brought up. It was brought up last time, and then we talked about land cost of the cost of land development. We brought Shane Jarrell up here to discuss some of those things because, you know, from a city standpoint, I know that Nick is presenting this to us, but we gotta have somebody within the city that knows that and has our expert in-house to be able to speak to those things. So I'm gonna bring him up. He's looked at the topography on it. It's not feasible for that particular land. That's why, because the dirt costs and things of that nature, after you put in infrastructure, there's an extreme amount of cost. I think this is probably a good time to bring him up and let him talk, and then we can have some additional questions to him about that.
How y'all doing tonight? Well, I'll try to hit the same notes I hit. There's a few folks here that wasn't here last week. Obviously, Alderman McHenry's here, and I'm gonna talk specifically on development cost. I've been an earthwork contractor for 20 years of my life. I ran a very large excavation company, and my brothers still run it today. So I put in developments and done numerous things. The mayor reached out to me last week sometimes, more so of a speculation on this development. And, you know, people, there's been hearsay about this, that, and the other. Well, why can't he do this? Well, he's, you know, maybe fudging the numbers on the development cost and so forth and so on. He paid too much money for the land. He's trying to make extra money, yada, yada, yada. And so what I did, I took a topo and I walked my big butt all around that property the other day, or as far as I could go in some places. But thank you, Miss Kathy. But I just wanted to look at the development cost and break it down. Nick highlighted in one of his little slide presentations up there earlier on some stuff, but the way I've got it right now, there's I think there was a previous plat that had 160-something lots in it, if I'm not mistaken, before he changed up some of the 80-foot widths and all. Well, right now it's 153 lots in this thing. And I'm gonna exclude this gentleman's cost of land because I don't know what he paid for it. I'm gonna give you some figures on price per lot and what I think that the lot would sell for. The dirt numbers are pretty dead on. They ain't gonna be off by much, and if I say anything, it's probably gonna be low, because once you get into the nuts and bolts of putting in the development, it's never the same thing your engineer estimates, and my numbers pretty much are right in line with his engineer, that he's kind of giving a rough takeoff on this, looking at topos and doing all the things that it takes to get started on that. Well, at 153 lots, you've roughly got in development cost, and this don't count what the man paid for the land and all that. You're roughly going to be between $40,000 and $44,000 per lot is what it's going to take to roll in there, clear the land, de-grub it, take the first 18 inches of strippings off, basically start building the subdivision, shaping lots, and putting roads in it. That don't have anything to do with what he paid for the land. That in turn, if you want to put profit in it, and I speculated what I assumed he paid for the land, that's going to put the lot price. If you went to buy a lot from this gentleman after he developed it, you're going to pay about $65,000 for one of those lots. And that's going to equate to roughly a $320,000 to $25,000 house. Now, Some of the lots obviously are bigger, and I don't know, I'm just assuming if he went across the board and said $65,000 per lot, instead of this larger lot, a little bit more, so forth and so on. I don't see any lakes or anything out there, so there's not going to be any lake lots. So we're going to call it $65,000. That's going to put the house roughly 325 grand, give or take. Well, if you take that number, use the same topo and the same lay of the land. I had a gentleman here that was last week. He made some pretty good points. He's not here anymore, but typically the larger you get with a lot, the cheaper that the cost of development goes if you're in a flat pasture. You'll have a few things that dictate that. With this, if you do a half-acre lot or a 1 acre lot, it's still a development. You're still putting a development in. So your costs are not really going to vary that much. Your streets are going to have to be roughly the same. The only thing you're going to lose is sewer taps, because every time the lot grows, the number of houses are going to go down. So basically, you'll have, if you've done half-acre lots, you'd have roughly 95 lots the way I've got it figured. Keeping retainage, keeping the tree buffer that Alderman Gill was talking about earlier, keeping the streets, curb and gutter and all that. You roughly have 95 lots. Well, if you've done that, the cost on that's roughly going to be $75,000, $78,000 per lot is what this gentleman would have in development costs. Once again, that's not profit, and that's not what he paid for the land. That would put him somewhere, in my personal opinion, and looking at the numbers in the market, 125 to 140 grand per lot. Let's jump up to the 1 acre lots. You're going to roughly have 50, 55 lots in there. Same thing, the number just keeps growing. Your rough cost in developing that is about 140 grand a lot. Well, that's going to take 180 to 200 by the time you calculate what the man's got in the land and then what he's trying to put in his pocket called profit. So that just takes the numbers up, and going back to the half-acre lots, my personal opinion, that puts that to a $600,000 or $700,000 house. Go to the 1 acre lots, that's going to be a $900,000 to $1 million house, and I'm using those numbers based off of development costs, what this gentleman would have to sell this property for. So you go back, you've heard Nick said earlier, and was your name Tim, sir? All right, Tim said, and everybody keeps using this name, high and best use of this property. I don't know if everybody in this room, I'm sure the real estate, high and best use for this property, Tim said he wasn't speaking on behalf of the bank, but I'm going to act like a banker here for a second. High and best use to that man means that when you come to me with this development, and I'm going to put it together, if it don't make no sense like the half-acre lots and the 1 acre lots do, I ain't going to get behind it, and I'm not going to fund it, and I'm not going to finance it, because it don't make mathematical sense to me. That's what high and best use. The mayor spoke on this earlier. He said there's three things that this property is actually good for. Number one, nobody vote on nothing and it sits there and nothing comes to Pearl. Number two, we vote on this, rezone this, and it becomes something that looks like similar to that plat right there. I know that's not the exact plat, because that's truthfully cost for cost what anybody, Nick, I don't know what Nick paid for it, I don't care what he paid for it, but anybody in his shoes, whether he sold it or not, it's never going to change, and it's not developing into 1, 2, or 3 acre lots. It cannot happen. Number three is this board right here rezones that for commercial. We sell it out there because you can get $4 to $6 a square foot for it, and we build all kind of strip malls and pretty commercial stuff right there behind all these beautiful homes and its neighbors, and we got a good commercial development out there. That's your three options. That's cut and dry, and that's as clear as I can be on it from a development and an earthwork excavation standpoint. Any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
We have three different more or less subdivisions here. The Hollows, which is probably the largest, is 45, a little bit over 45 acres, is that right? Okay.
I don't know this total of 72 acres. I don't know the name of each one. I'm looking at the earthwork side of it. So you'd have to ask Nick what's.
Okay, well, anyway, why couldn't, part of this, I know some of us are getting half-acre lots, but the shadow part, if you look at that, you have a ton of traffic coming off of the new road that's coming from Flowood, and that's the first subdivision that's being built.
Right.
And therefore you have a lot more traffic. Now, if you ride around Pearl or ride around the outskirts of Pearl,
phases. Well, that's understandable there. And I don't really know what your question was. You're kind of all over the place there, but yeah, through phases, yes, I would say that would probably be smart for this gentleman to go in there and do phase after phase. But what you've got to look at is the developer on that, is the cost of it. And I think what you were asking me is there's 3 areas. If he took one area and just made that an estate section and left the other 2 areas R1, I believe is what they're zoned for. It still goes back to the development cost, because every bit of that land is, as far as the elevation changes and the topo of it, one is really no better than the other. It's all 3 in shambles, and that's where it goes back to I know everybody is asking for estate lots and wants estate lots, and to this man's defense, if he did go in there and build 1 acre lots or 2 acre lots and built 3,500, 4,000 square foot homes, he'd make a lot more money. Profit-wise, he'd put a lot more money in his pocket. But the land is not feasible for him to do that, and that's what the whole argument's about. And whether you do it in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, the cost of developing, and that's why I say it's good for 2 uses. Something like this gentleman has it drawn up now, or rezone it commercial and sell it as commercial property. As far as somebody coming in and developing it and actually being able to cost it, do it, and make a little profit off of it. And the numbers that I've got figured in the profit margins are very small as far as the lot profit is concerned. Now, I'm not a home builder by no means, so I don't know what the profit margins would be in the house, but it's very minimal in the development on this. And from the first plat I looked at, there's 7 figures that was already so-called left on the table by changing the plat over and giving up that many lots to absorb some of the cost and turn the profits. I hope that answered your question.
Board have any questions for Shane?
Thank you all for listening.
The floor is open, so if there's additional folks who would like to come up and talk during the time of public hearing.
Mayor, Board. I'm Lori Schuler. I own Justice Security, a business in Pearl since 2015. I live in a subdivision off of Cooper Road, and we worked long and hard and saved a lot of money to build our home. Our home is worth more than $500,000. I have a question for you regarding your statistics about there being no homes sold over $500,000, because I know for a fact that the home across the street from our subdivision just recently sold, and it's larger than mine. So I would like to know where you got the statistics from. I have several questions. I'm going to ask them all at one time, and then you can answer them together. People who build and buy homes that size build and buy to stay. That's why you don't have $500,000 homes for sale every day of the week, because we're the ones, the citizens, who have invested in this city. I've been in this city, all except 1 year, for 30 years. We have lived in this city since 1993. We're here to stay. We like the city. And people who build and buy that type of home are here because they are investing in the city, and they want our city to succeed. I'm one of those people. My children, all 3 graduated from Pearl. They're all 3. 2 of them live in the city of, one lives in the city of Pearl, and the other 2 still are in Rankin County. They are supporters of what we do here locally, and we want to continue to have that. I'm all about young people having a place to go to move up. I really am. Regarding comps do not matter if people do not want to live where the house is. It really doesn't matter what you comp it to. If people don't want to live there, it doesn't matter if you say it's worth $1 million. If they don't want to live near that, they're not going to pay $1 million for it. Comps are out the window. So for me, I want to keep our neighborhood in a way that the comps are near us and that we remain with the zoning that we have. I have not heard, again, have not heard anything about covenants that would be required for these subdivisions that are coming up at all. I'm a real big covenant gal, not gonna lie about that. Real big covenant gal. And so I want there to be very specific covenants on whatever the board decides to approve. That's important to the city. Rentals, as all of us know, we have an inordinate percentage of rental properties in the city of Pearl. I want to know, with this size home, are there going to be any restrictions in this neighborhood that rentals will not be allowed? Or is that just going to be something that somebody's just going to buy up a lot of them in a few years and then we're going to be sitting right next to a whole lot of rentals? I don't want that. I don't want that, and I'm invested there, and I don't want that, Mayor. I really don't want that. The people that rent, they don't pay taxes in the city. The renters pay property taxes, but these people, when they rent, they're not buying in. They're not buying in. And we want people that live here that will buy in. I also haven't heard anything about how the traffic problem is going to be addressed, because if we build this many more homes, there's going to be a lot more traffic. Haven't heard anything about how that's going to be addressed. And I also haven't heard anything about the city, the offset of the cost between what the revenue estimates, again, are stated versus the cost of, on the city side, to help implement all of these utilities and the roads and all that. So those are my questions, where the comps come from, the covenants, the rentals, the traffics, and the cost offset. So I have 5 questions. I'll let you answer them.
So I'll address those for you.
Sure.
Traffic is a fluid thing, so you can ask our traffic engineer, Rick Ferguson. He's not here tonight. Traffic finds its way, it's like water, okay? But that's a 4-lane boulevard. The reason that road has been put in place for Rankin County is because throughout the years, we have a lot of east and west corridors to travel traffic, to get traffic from one end of the county to the other. So this particular corridor was put in place by the East Metro Corridor Commission, started getting funded in 1990 in order to have north and south corridors. No one knows exactly what the traffic's going to be, but a four-lane boulevard carries a lot of traffic. It can transfer a lot of traffic from one place to another in a short period of time. The covenants, as far as rentals, that's something that can be handled in the HOA from the very beginning. That's not something we can implement from the city. We obviously have code enforcement that we're very strict on in the city from commercial and also residential. But the HOA will handle that within its covenants. Some of those things are hard to do because of HUD. HUD can come after you and file a complaint against you. And that's the federal government coming after you. So addressing some of the other things with these comps, one thing that somebody didn't say, I think Mr. Cox talked about it, but in Richburg Estates right now, that's a different development, but land value wasn't there, and land cost for development was not the same. There's a good bit of dirt sold. I don't know the approximate amount, I'm not gonna say it for the boardroom, but I know there was dirt sold. But you have $465,000 houses right now just sitting there. Some of them have been on the market for many days. Nobody can estimate what this market's gonna do. I think Tim talked about that last time as far as what people were gonna do, but I think probably for the Norman here, we have had record low interest rates for many years. And for that being said, it's gonna be hard for us to sustain that because of inflation. I think that the market's gonna settle down and we'll have some interest rates, but my first house I bought in 2004 was 6%. A year ago, everybody would have thought that was crazy, but in today's time, which is gonna keep that mortgage rate at 2,000, or when you include taxes and PMI, you're gonna get to 2,200, 2,300. That's a lot of money to be spending. Something that I wanna make sure that this room knows too, as far as rentals within the city of Pearl. So in the metro area, if you compare, Pearl is at 39%, some say 40. Clinton's at, excuse me, Brandon's at 33% and Clinton's at 31%. Ridgeland's at 52%. So some of the things that we've done to change, like when Brad and me go in, I'm just telling you from the standpoint, Laura, you're a taxpayer, and I want you to know, when Brad and his guys go into a rental house in Pearl now, if there's any rotten varnish, any bad paint or anything like that, they're required to do it before they get a CO or before somebody goes in. Secondly, we adopted, the board adopted the ordinance that you would have to have a surety bond, which could actually require the rental home owner we can call the bond on it, and they have to repair anything rotten in the house. So we put in some policies that we feel like is pretty strong in doing so, and our code enforcement guys they do a really good job. So everybody can't notice it in the room, but there's been 27 buildings painted on Highway 80 from Pirates Cove to Pearson Road in the last 5 years. And that's factual information. There might be something else that I might not have handled as far as the tops to being sold. I'm sorry. Everything that he said up here on the listing was on MLS, not everything privately sold. But you said that there's been one recently sold in the neighborhood.
It was listed by a realtor.
Say again, I'm sorry.
It was listed by a realtor.
Okay.
Well, I think those are probably throwaway years with COVID. I don't know that you can really, I'm not being rude. I just, right. Those were outlier years. I think everybody would agree.
Most of those houses would be built by someone, not sold. Most of those are homes, so I would agree that there probably haven't been many sold. But I can guarantee there's been a lot built in that price range. And already occupied. And right there on Lonewood Course.
And with the professional people that are moving out of the deep metro area, they also need a place to go. And they don't want a $300,000 house, quite frankly. I didn't understand about the traffic. Are you saying that none of the traffic is going to open up onto Cooper?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, so you were just talking about,
That corridor is designed to travel, take care of west to east traffic, a lot of it going to Crossgates Boulevard.
the question I had about the traffic is the traffic that is going to come onto Cooper.
No, you'll have less traffic going to Cooper with you having that corridor.
With a new subdivision being built there with that many more houses, there would be a considerable.
I can't approximate, but everybody's, I don't want to, everybody's not going to work at the same time. People are in and out of the subdivision at the same time.
Regardless, but you'll have school buses and all those kinds of things. But I'm just saying, that will be a considerably greater amount of traffic happening from those three entrances. If they all three go onto Cooper Road, they're not gonna all just go onto East Metro. I appreciate and I agree with your opinion about East Metro corridor. That will be very helpful, but they've got to get from there to East Metro. And so I just wanted to know how we're going to address the traffic flow that will be increased from that.
One thing for sure, everybody in this room doesn't know this, but one of our main legislative priorities is to receive funding for a traffic light over there. That doesn't actually talk about traffic volume, but a lot of people are concerned about safety. So that is one of our legislative items. We've requested that for funding through the legislature this current session. So that's obviously going to help move traffic and control traffic. Traffic is something that I can't tell you what that will provide today. I know that a $30 million road with a 4-lane boulevard is going to be able to move traffic expeditiously through there from west to east.
So a traffic light in the curve going to East Metro from
No,
El Dorado.
where it crosses El Dorado.
Where it crosses El Dorado, but not a traffic light where the new intersection is, over on top of the hill by the 4-way at Old Brandon?
No, ma'am.
Why not
Because it's gonna
there?
reduce traffic count 40% right there.
Hmm.
That's what our engineers stated and NDOT engineers.
And the last question was about the city's offset of cost between what the city would have to put into developing the subdivision based
Our
on.
costs are, that's the developer having to put in the cost. Now, will we have deferred maintenance on repairing roads and things of that nature? Sure, we will. From my standpoint is, and I'll stand behind it, and there are people in this room that disagree. From my standpoint of what we've looked at from our strategic plan, 325,000 to 450,000 houses aren't starter homes. I started on Patterson Drive and then in Patton Place, and then now I live on Longwood Place, currently close to you. But I don't consider that a starter home at all when that's a lot of money, $2,200 a month. It'd have been hard for me and Ben to pay that when we were Pearl police officers.
But we're old.
Yeah.
Back then, it was a lot of money. This day and time, it's not. That's about where they're beginning. So, yeah, I would say that would be pretty close, especially these that are on the half of acre lot. So.
$400,000 is still a lot to me.
I didn't say 4. We were talking about 3, and we're talking about 1,800 square feet.
These houses are gonna be probably 325, realistic.
325, right.
And, that's the minimum.
So I just don't want there to be a lot of rental houses there. I would like to know how that's going to be addressed about reducing that. Or I don't know if there's a way to even do that. If we have an ordinance in the city of Pearl about people not buying houses just to rent the houses.
You can't do
Especially-
that by law. You can't.
Okay.
I'll speak, so we can't say you can't buy this home and rent it. But as someone that and this can look down on me or whatever, but I own rental houses and I fully renovate them and I own very nice rental houses. Keep above Pearl standards on homes that I own.
You would be an exception.
Well, good for me. That's great for my character, I guess. But I can tell you from running the numbers on it, and any of the bankers in the room can also tell you that unless you're bringing in, you know, a ridiculous amount of cash and not worried about recapturing your money or your cash flow, a $300,000 home cannot be a rental home. It can, but it is not feasible. The feasibility is just like the subdivision being a estate neighborhood is not feasible. The feasibility of someone paying $300,000 for a home and then renting it is a very difficult from a feasibility standpoint as well. So, but federally, if we put in there that you are not going to do anything to rent your home, I mean, we're opening ourselves and the city up for some major lawsuits on a federal basis.
And you mentioned earlier about the covenants with HUD. Are these going to be HUD homes?
No.
Okay, I'm just asking the
No.
question.
That's the branch of the federal government that regulates housing,
I'm
affordable
just
housing.
asking the question.
And so they can bring complaints against individuals that highly restrict people from coming into neighborhoods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for attention.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we would obviously like to get started as soon as possible. We have to start with the beginning. Well, a lot of projected completion is going to be based on the sale of the income. Our goal would be within 3 to 4 years to be finished.
I just want to encourage anybody, if they want to come up to the podium and speak. We've had people will speak for and speak against. That will satisfy the public hearing. There's not anybody else to speak for or against at this time. Just making sure. Good Yes, Ms. Cindy?
So home size, we've got a minimum in sections of 1,800 to meet our points, and then our biggest lot count is 2,000 square foot minimum. So the average is gonna be in the 2,000 square feet somewhere. So, yeah. So there, yeah, so there's some that, and we put those numbers up there as well. So we've got some that are over, a 4 acre up to over half acre. Majority probably being between that third and 6%. It's the minimum. Yeah, so averages will be higher than that. Yeah, yeah, we're not talking about 1,500 square foot. We're not much bigger, higher prices.
So about what percentage do you think are gonna fall in that 1,800 to 2,000 square foot?
I would say, I don't have all the lot counts, but we're probably looking at,
I mean, just
yeah,
roughly
50%,
50%.
about half.
So I would be correct when I say that what's in Serenity Lake is falling in that 1,800 square foot range.
No,
Or at least that's what I was told when
Yeah.
that project was gonna be started.
Yeah, so under a lot, the majority of those, I'd say the average size in there right now is probably 1,740, somewhere in there.
So they're below the 1,800 heated and cooled.
Correct.
That project is actually zoned where we can build apartments.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was never told that. Let me just make that clear.
We're building.
I just built a
Yeah,
house
so,
a year and a half ago that is almost $600,000, and I would have never built that house if I had known that information that you just said right there, because I was told the complete opposite of that.
but again, with the zoning minimum is 1,200, and we can build a house.
And I'm a mile from that Serenity Lake.
We raised the bar based on the zoning.
When I pulled my permit, I was told that that area had to be 1,800 square foot heated and cooled for large. For that area.
If no one else wants to speak, I'll entertain a motion at this time. There's a motion on the floor, Mr. Cox. We can go into discussion. Is there a second? Second. Okay, Mr. Cox?
I was just gonna say, you know, sometimes you can make windows are very complicated. And I know some of that area is a lot of people, but I think if somebody in there that really knew what they should do, I think they can make a easy place. And I'm nothing for Nick, I think he's a great guy. And I'm proud of him for his age and he does so much. Just take these considerations.
All right, discussion. We have two motions on the floor.
I'm also kind of affected by the same situation here, kind of, I live on Alpine and kind of across the lead behind what was put up my property would be, at least 1,800 square feet of water. I'm from Pearl, reinvested in Pearl, that was when school came back, and it's not ruffling feathers, it's nothing, and all kind of personal, it's, but I'm
So the R3 zoning that Kim's talking about was last term. From that point, we've raised our standards up to 1,800. Okay, so that was last term, voted on. I don't know what the minutes are gonna display at this time, not during this time. I can't present them at this time. Now, what Carl and Nick said was, hey, most of those houses average 1,740 within it. They're up, basically all of them are over close to $300,000 homes in there. So I just wanted to make sure that I clarify that, Kim, that it was not voted on by this board or the previous board, so.
Yeah, and that was what Shana just told me, that it wasn't, and I just wanna reiterate what JR said, Nick, you know, this is nothing personal. This is, I just have to look at it from a property value standpoint.
Yeah, and that's one thing I want to tell you, is John, I've known you all life, trust me. So that's one thing that we're committed is we're trying to get to that point of that next step, elevating Pearls. I mean, there's not a whole lot of areas in Pearls you can work. There's none that I know of beside our developments you can buy a new nice home. And instead of, you know, like I said, we're talking about 55, 60-foot lots for Surrender Lake versus an 80-foot lots. So I mean, we're going dramatically larger and the average home size is going to get dramatically larger. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, is that next upgrade, next step.
All right, this time, we'll call for a vote. We have two motions on the floor. Discussion's been had. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
No.
All right. Let's start with Alderman Foy. The ayes have it at this time. Motion is carried.
Number 3, consider amending the zoning ordinance.
Brendan, I'm gonna let you speak to this on this zoning ordinance.
Yeah, this is essentially making conditional use any type of storage facility within the city a conditional use in all commercial phases. It's currently a conditional use in some phases, but it's C2 on our Spain. Sorry.
Hey, if the room can quiet down a little bit, we still have some business in here to conduct on the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, essentially, this is what it is it's making conditional use for any type of storage facility within the city.
Right.
And it's come to the recommendation of Brad and Community Development that it not being barred, but being a conditional use in all development commercial. Currently, it is conditional use in C3, no, C2. No,
C2.
Yeah, make it everything.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, the city's getting overrun with storage facilities, you know. So I would make the recommendation we amend the ordinance.
No, don't put a limit on it, makes it a conditional use. Right, it has to be, it's gotta be approved before, it's not just automatically approved within inside the zoning.
Yeah.
I make a recommendation for you.
All right, for discussion, anybody here to speak in opposition to this? This is basically in the C3 zoning area, or any other area that if we have a storage company that wants to come in, they have to have a conditional use. So they have to, currently, they have to approach the planning and zoning board, but what this is doing is making it more restrictive for any type of outside storage to, or even inside storage to come into the city of Pearl. We have storage facilities. We think that from a highest and best standpoint that we don't need additional storage facilities, and this helps us regulate that. All right, so this is basically in the C3 zoning area, or any other area that if we have a storage company that wants to come in, they have to have a conditional use. So they have to, currently, they have to approach the planning and zoning board, but what this is doing is making it more restrictive for any type of outside storage to, or even inside storage to come into the city of Pearl. We have storage facilities. We think that from a highest and best standpoint that we don't need additional storage facilities, and this helps us regulate that. All right, so There's, Johnny Mack had a motion. Is there a second? Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Also, we come to the portion of our board meeting where we adjourn in the memory of somebody that just recently passed. I want to ask the board for someone that they want to make sure that they recommend, and so we could be in prayer for their families. If not, all right, is there a motion to adjourn? All right, 2 motions on the floor. All in favor, say aye. This meeting is adjourned.